High above the picturesque town of Martigny in Switzerland lies the St. Bernard Pass, straddling the Alps on the historic pilgrimage route between Switzerland and Italy. The pass is named in honour of the famous St. Bernard Hospice and its founder, St. Bernard of Menton. For centuries, the hospice provided welcome respite for pilgrims on their way to Rome, and the resident priests became highly skilled in mountain rescue techniques. For this reason, the St. Bernard priests would find themselves as pioneering explorers on the other side of the world, risking their lives, and for some, giving their lives, in the service of their Lord. This experience would have a profound and lasting effect on the priests of the St. Bernard mission. China is a sprawling country of over 9.5 million square kilometres with a diverse ethnic makeup. Despite its size, up until the 20th century, the country remained extensively closed off, particularly in remote regions such as Tibet. The Tibetan government was in Lhasa, where Buddhist monks shared a lot of the duties with their secular counterparts. Such was the fundamental role Buddhism played in society. Despite this, Tibet was seen as the Wild West of China, with banditry being a common problem in the remote mountain passes. Around the 1850s, Christian missionaries, with limited concession of the central Qing court in Beijing and endorsement by the Dalai Lama, started to make their way into Tibet. The reception they received from the locals was as cold and hostile as the harsh Tibetan environment. But this did not put the dedicated missionaries off. And by the 1900s, Christianity had started to establish roots. The original Catholic missions in Tibet were run by the French Foreign Legion. But Pope Pius XI became concerned about the safety of the missionaries and their growing flock, and felt the priests of the St. Bernard mission could provide a better service to the community.
Et puis, au début de ce siècle seulement, il y a eu cet appel à la mission qui est arrivé de façon très particulière, parce que c'était donc dans la région du Tibet. Les MEP, les missions étrangères de Paris qui étaient responsables du diocèse, de la région là, ont eu l'idée de construire aussi un hospice un peu dans la même situation qu'au Grand Saint-Bernard, pour les pèlerins de passage sur ce col.
St. Bernard of Menton set up the St. Bernard Hospice in the 11th century in order to provide respite for Catholic pilgrims who braved the snow of the Alps to and from Rome as they crossed the formidable mountains of Europe. Often, the priests found themselves rescuing pilgrims who were buried by avalanches. In such cases, they would employ the use of their giant mastiffs, the St. Bernard dogs. The capable priests on skis and their dogs became a legend throughout the world. So it was that the priests of St. Bernard, with their high-altitude experience, found themselves making the long and treacherous journey to Tibet. But for some, it was the danger that attracted them.
Nous avons été envoyés pour être missionnaires dans la partie tibétaine de la mission de Cantine, Tatsianlu. Et puis en même temps, il y avait cette attirance pour le Tibet, n'est-ce pas?
Father Savios, now in his 90s, is one of the few remaining pioneering missionaries who found himself travelling to Tibet in 1946, at the age of 27.
Ah ben oui, nous avions beaucoup de... ils écrivaient... les premiers missionnaires ont écrit pas mal de chroniques, de lettres sur le Tibet, hein, n'est-ce pas, le père Méli, et puis Bob Chapelet, et tout ça. Et, évidemment, oui, c'est un peu aussi cette envie de faire un peu d'aventure, n'est-ce pas, pour dire franchement, et en dehors de, n'est-ce pas, c'est pas vraiment certaines raisons qui ont été, du moins que les missionnaires partis là-bas avaient de certaines raisons. Entre autres, une, c'était bien un peu, on peut dire ça simplement, que c'était un peu l'aventure vers l'inconnu.
The St. Bernard missionaries first came to the region in 1931, and by 1935 they had built a hospice on a 3,800-metre high pass between the Mekong and the Salween rivers, just a stone's throw from the sacred Kawakapo mountain. The hospice served over 30,000 caravan porters that crossed the Latsa Pass, providing a place to rest and shelter, as well as offering pilgrims services and supplies during those long trips of hardship. Father Savios's journey from Switzerland took a grueling 3 months. He first arrived in Kunming, where he studied Chinese, before moving to Aceh County in northwest Yunnan, where he would join fellow missionaries such as Fournier, Loup, Lation and Tornay.
Et puis, bon, j'avais appris le tibétain auparavant déjà avec le père Tornay. C'était mon professeur, qui était déclaré bienheureux Maurice Tornay, où je suis resté 5 mois avec lui à Tunze, donc Techin.
Like his colleagues, Savios became fluent in Chinese and Tibetan, and soon developed a keen interest in Tibet and its people.
Disons, j'ai lu pas mal de livres sur le bouddhisme, oui, évidemment, mais là, mes souvenirs là sur des visites dans les lamaseries, ça j'en ai fait plusieurs. À Techin, à Tunze, n'est-ce pas, la lamaserie, donc le temps n'était pas très important, surtout. Était mal tenu. Tandis que dans le Tsaron tibétain, dans la vallée du Saluen, là, il y avait de belles lamaseries.
Though their presence in the region brought benefits to the community, there was still friction from the local Buddhist monks, who viewed them with suspicion. Their acts of charity were seen as ploys to entice new converts, something that Savios acknowledged.
Parce que spécialement le père qui était à Ouissi, lui, il avait un dispensaire assez considérable. Les dispensaires ont été une bonne propagande pour les catholiques. Pour eux, nous étions peut-être pas des rivaux, mais quand même, on n'était pas bien vus par les lamas, disons, les lamas, oui. Ceux qui étaient vraiment sous la guidance des lamas, des lamaseries. Oui.
Despite the apparent tensions with the monks, the priests were able to develop a convivial relationship with the local community.
Ça, c'est la résidence de Ouissi. La chapelle était dans la maison, là, c'était à gauche. Oui, des groupes venaient danser dans la résidence. Ce sont plutôt des lissous. Oh. Dans les environs de Ouissi, c'était l'ethnie lissou plutôt. Voilà. Salut. Les lissous et autres venaient vendre des choses à la résidence. Le père Lation contrôle tout ça. François Fournier, il était copain avec les pauvres diables qui venaient par là, vous voyez. Hein. Donc, parce que le Xiao ici, c'est là qu'il y avait beaucoup plus de chrétiens. À Wuxi même, il n'y avait pas beaucoup. Hein. Mais à Wuxi, il y avait Hualopa, là où il y avait le petit, probatorium, petit séminaire. L'école qui a été tenue par le père Maurice Tornay.
So it was that the missionaries of St. Bernard were able to establish themselves in this remote land. But they could not smooth the tensions with the local Buddhist monks, despite a decree from Lhasa that ordered local monasteries to be hospitable to the priests. Things came to a head when Father Tornay was expelled by monks from his parish at Yerkalo, today known as Yangjing, and found himself in Dechen, pondering his next move.
Je lui ai tenu compagnie pendant 5-6 mois à Dechin, à Tunze, on disait là-bas, oui. Le bienheureux. Donc, il avait déjà l'idée de recourir aux autorités supérieures, n'est-ce pas, pour qu'il puisse, parce qu'il avait été chassé de sa paroisse, c'est-à-dire que, alors, les autorités locales n'ont pas appliqué ce qu'avait décrété le gouvernement local, le gouvernement du Kham. Alors il a absolument voulu aller jusqu'au bout. Il est parti pour Lhasa.
This was almost certainly a suicide mission. But Father Tornay was determined to plead his case to the authorities, and was not fearful of losing his life for his Lord. For even as a high school student he had written, "Death is the happiest day of our lives. We must rejoice in it more than anything, because it is our arrival in our true homeland." His colleagues knew he had a slim chance of survival, and expected the worst.
Ici, c'est une photo où ils ont voulu, soi-disant, retenir le père Maurice Tornay d'aller là-haut. Alors, le père Lation, en partant de Wuxi, il le retient là-bas. Il ne faut pas aller se faire tuer là-bas au Tibet, n'est-ce pas?
This photograph, together with this rare film footage, taken by Father Detri, are probably the last images taken of Father Tornay before his fateful trip. As feared, Father Tornay did indeed meet his end on the road to Lhasa, where he was ambushed and shot dead.
C'est moi qui ai envoyé des gens pour rapporter les cadavres d'aussi, donc son domestique serviteur qui était tué juste au même moment, quoi, à peu près.
In the years to come, Father Tornay's martyrdom became a much documented act of faith, and in 1933 he was recognized as a saint and canonized by Pope John Paul II. But at the time, it just seemed a tragic waste of life. This event was to be a precursor to even darker days that were soon to sweep across the whole of China. In 1949, the Communists came to power, and in 1951, the new Chinese government brought an end to the St. Bernard missionaries' time in Tibet.
Voilà, ça c'est la photo quand nous avons été chassés du Tibet. Vous avez ici, à côté de moi, le père Roncalli. Lui était des deux pères des missions étrangères, des pères qui étaient avec le père Goré, en la Norvège. À Wuxi, il y avait le père Lation, et puis le père Fournier à Xiaowici. Alors là.
Father Savios and friends were expelled from Tibet in 1952, ending up in Taiwan. Never would the St. Bernard missionaries return. But the priests could not forget their time spent in Tibet.
Mais tous ceux qui ont été au Tibet ont été très marqués par ce pays. Et je crois que c'est le caractère des gens, la nature des liens qu'ils avaient avec les fidèles.
Despite having spent just 5 years in Tibet, Father Savios found himself longing to return. He may have physically left China, but his heart stayed firm in the cold mountain passes of his former parish. For the next 50 years, he found himself stuck in Taiwan, but as China reopened its doors, he was able to make 2 stealthy trips back to the region. However, it was not until 2003 that he was able to visit his parish in Tibet, thanks to the help of the China Exploration and Research Society. And although in his 80s, Father Savios was determined to see his treasured village of Xichang under the shadow of the Great Kawakapo, a region so reminiscent of the mountains and valleys of Switzerland. The warmth of the villagers' greeting was testament to the significant role the St. Bernard priests had played in this remote community.
On a assisté à une cérémonie là, avec le père Rollin et Romain.
The service was largely in Tibetan, something that Father Savios had been quite used to 50 years ago. But how would he cope now?
Vraiment qu'on priait en tibétain. Les prières, ça, c'est assez facile à faire. Mais pour parler couramment, alors, c'est différent. Alors.
Though it was a simple service, the experience was priceless to Father Savios, who, for a man in his 80s, was unlikely to return again.
He 现在84岁的高龄，还冒着这么大的风险，身体上这个海拔有这么高，要翻些山过来，到这里来，这个你心里面感觉怎么样？
哦，我很高兴呢，心里也实在也觉得比下面还好。哎，也是梦呢，你们会的帮助啊，这个 China Explorer。So I have to，我要感谢你啊！
不用感谢，感谢我很光荣能协助你回来一趟。
A group photo signified an appropriate end to Father Savios' trip. Xichang today supports a strong Catholic community, with young and old flocking to church every week. Generations of Tibetans continuing to live the Christian life that Father Tornay and others like him had given their lives for. And through people such as Feng Jiguo, their teachings live on.
Padre nostrum quotidianum da nobis hodie, et divide nobis debita nostra, sicut nos dimidimus debitoribus nostris, et ne nos inducas in tentationem, sed libera nos a malo. Amen.
Jiguo, who was taught Latin by the missionaries, is a very active member of the church and has seen the community grow from strength to strength.
解放初期就是上100多个嘛，现在上400多个，将近500个了。另外还有自古那里教育特别热心，他们自己建立教堂啊，比方说现在他们新建了三个新教堂。
Xichang Church, built originally in the 1880s, has become a treasured monument in its own right.
现在是列为是全国文物保护单位。
The church stands as tribute to the St. Bernard missionaries and as a constant reminder of their legacy, one that goes beyond religion and speaks more of the individual character of the priests, their dedication to their flock, and the personal sacrifices that made the people of Tibet hold a special place in their hearts, one that is passed down from generation to generation. For this reason, The China Exploration and Research Society is committed to preserving this precious, little-known history of China, in tribute to the pioneering spirit of Father Savios, Father Tornay, and their fellows of the St. Bernard Mission. They have impacted the lives and culture of Tibetans past and present, and for this reason they should not be forgotten.